Good afternoon. I'm just here sitting on the deck, the usual place where I make these videos for Richard. And we have been going through some heavy-duty rains. As you can see over at Gary's, our neighbors, his whole place is flooded. But as I mentioned in a previous video, that looks like it filled up like a gigantic lake, but under a couple of days of sunshine, all of that's going to go. That's all going to disappear. And what Richard did by bulldozing the land below to make a lake, all that water is going to stay as a lake down below. And it is filling up very nicely now. In fact, let me see if I can walk over. I got my little rain boots on, so it's very muddy. We've been getting some heavy-duty rains for the last few days, and there's been flooding warnings. But one thing about this land that Richard and I always admired is that no matter how much it rains and no matter how inconvenient it can be sometimes, when the dog is all wet and you got to dry him off with muddy paws, or you might have some leaks coming through, and I do. I've had to put towels by the windows, and Richard had a whole bunch of little plastic containers that he kept. He said, "This is what you need to put up when it starts raining," and sure enough, I had to put them up because it was dripping. It's the way it is with a log cabin. A log cabin is a living thing. It's not like concrete. And so when you go through nearly a whole year of dry weather, and then all of a sudden you get hit with heavy-duty rains, the logs expand, or things just happen where leaks will come through. But one of the things that Richard and I always loved about the rains is no matter how hard it rains, the ranch just gets more and more beautiful compared to down in Los Angeles, or in the city, or Malibu, where the homes are built on the hillside and you have the landslides and all of that sort of thing. None of that happens here. It just gets more and more beautiful with the rain. But you can see the lake down below. It's nearly filled up now. One of the things that Richard wanted to do before he died was to clear out all those reeds that are taken over on the lake, and he didn't get a chance to do that, and I am concerned about that, because it just keeps growing and covering up what he built before. It's almost as though it's time for a bulldozer to come in and dig all of that out again before it encroaches and takes over the lake, and I am concerned about that. I think Richard was thinking there's just so many things still left that he had to do on the cabin. There's restoration work that needs to be done on our cabin. But I think he was just at a point in his life where it just was too much, and he just didn't want to deal with it. And I understand that. So it all fell in my lap. and Brett's lap too. He's got stuff that he's going to have to deal with. But I just wanted to show you how beautiful. Now that, compared to over there at Gary's, as I said, that's all going to disappear. Give it a few days of sunlight, and little by little it will all vanish. But because Richard had a bulldozer and built this lake that will hold up for a whole year. And we're probably still going to get more rain, so it's almost filled. That's how heavy the rains were these last few days. But I was, you can see the storm is kind of passing. It's all moving towards San Luis and towards the ocean. It's nice blue skies again. Thank goodness, because oh my gosh, we need you, sun. I was saying, okay, we love the rain, but time to have a drying out period, because it's been messy and muddy, and it gets to be a little much after. So I'm glad to have this break, and tomorrow we're still supposed to have some more rain, but maybe that's it. Maybe, going by the way the sky looks right now, maybe we won't get the rain tomorrow. It says on the weather report that we're supposed to get some more rain. Not as much, like they said, 20%. And then after that, it's clear skies, thank goodness. But I was feeling, as you know, I go through these times where during the day I can be okay, and I can take Schmickles for a walk and be out in nature, and it lifts my spirits, and I talk to Richard. And I think when your spirit is up and your vibrations are up, it's easier to maybe make a connection with him compared to if you're really down and feeling sad. I don't know. I'm just learning more and more about trying to get the right vibrations to commune with him, but I do know that he has been sending messages to me, and I listened to one of the Edgar Casey videos the other day, and I have to admit, it really upset me, because on that one it talked about how there's a certain point where the soul has there's the horses. They're feeling pretty chirpy. I think they're happy that the sun's coming out too. Oh boy, they're in horse heaven. They're gonna have so much grass. We used to have 24 horses, and they would do a great job of munching down all the grass, but these guys, now that there's 3, they're not going to have any problem of starving, to put it mildly. There's going to be a lot of grass for them for a long time. But as I was saying, this video bothered me because he talked about there's going to be a point where they're not going to, the soul, if you talk about Richard, you know, he's going to go on to a much higher state of consciousness, and that consciousness is going to expand more and more into God's love, and it's going to be harder and harder for that soul to commune with a more dense vibration of the earth. And this is what I'm kind of interpreting what I was hearing from that video, and that once they feel that part of whatever connection they had with earth is over and completed, and the mission is completed, that they will go on, and that is the reason why, as time goes on, the loved ones like myself that want to stay connected may not see as many signs, or may not even see any more signs. That's what bothered me about it, where he was saying pretty much like, okay, that's it, that's the end, they're going on now. don't expect to see any more signs, don't expect to get any more dreams or visions or visitations, because they're gone now. They're off to that higher realm, and there's nothing more for them to connect to anymore. And that seemed to contradict all the other Edgar Casey videos that spoke about how through your love and your prayers, that you will always be connected with them. And I believe that with all my heart. But it disturbed me, because it really made me sad, because the one thing that I have left, the only thing I have left, is believing that I can still commune with Richard through his soul, through love, and receive messages from him, even if they're just subtle, even if it's just kind of telepathy, if you will, thoughts being sent to me, which I have experienced. It's been 2 months now since he died, and I have experienced not the dream visitations, but many other signs that I spoke about in previous videos. And I wanted to know more if that was true, and I sent an email to a medium that I really like. I think she's the real deal. You have to be careful, because there's a lot of phonies out there, but this young woman, there was something about her. When I listened to her videos and the things that she explained, I thought, this is not fake. This girl's the real deal. And I asked her if I could have a session with her, just to see if she could connect with Richard. You know, and even in just like a small something that would allow her to say, this is what, he's there, he's with you, and give some sort of evidence of that. But frankly, I don't need proof. I don't need evidence. It's kind of like Jesus, I think, used to get his heart broken because they wouldn't have the faith unless he proved to them some kind of miracle. And then they would believe. And I think it hurt him to have to prove, you know, okay, there is a spiritual life beyond this, and I have to do this or that. What do I have to do to prove it to you? I think he just wanted, just have faith. Just have faith. I don't need to raise the dead for you. I don't need to cure the leopards. You just have to have faith. And I'm kind of at that point where it's okay if I don't get some proof or evidence that he's still with me. I have the faith in my heart, and that's what counts the most, and that's how we will always stay together, is through that faith and through that love. But, you know, the other day, I still, you know, once in a while, you know, I have been getting some messages, and I thought, I feel like maybe some of it is fading a little bit. And when I did that video, when I was crying and just really down about losing him, that was one of the things I was scared about. That I used the analogy of seeing an island that you look back on, and little by little in time it gets smaller and smaller and smaller until you can't see it anymore. And I just don't want that to happen. I need to know that he's with me, you know, all the time. And So I was in the house the other day, and I was thinking I really miss it. I miss his voice. I miss hearing his voice, and I don't have anything other than what our good friend Mike sent me. He sent a voicemail that Richard left on his phone, and I'm going to tell Mike. Mike had a couple of more, and I'm going to tell him when he comes over, because he has to show me a couple of things that I need to learn, like how to change the filters and that sort of thing. And but I'm going to ask him, please, whatever voicemails you still have on your phone of Richard, send them to me. But I was thinking I missed hearing from him so badly. And I noticed on the table in the living room this little tiny recorder that I bought for him. I don't know if it was for his birthday or for Christmas, but I bought this cute little, real teeny tiny recorder. I mean, it's about 3 and it's a couple inches big or something, but it's small. I mean, small enough where you could just fit it in your pocket. And I know how much he always loved little things like that. And with technology, like he recorded all of his favorite songs on this little tiny cube, teeny tiny cube. It was like a little square cube, and he showed it to me. He said he put earphones, you plug in the earphones, says listen to this, and it sounded like you were hearing it on some heavy duty expensive speakers or something. And I said, wow, that's amazing. And that's coming from this little tiny cube. And he said, yeah. And and he just loved little things like that. So I bought him this little tiny recorder, and I didn't know if he even used it or anything, but I turned it on. And remember, I was saying to him, I was having this like prayer earlier. I said, oh, I just want to hear your voice. Even though you left that body behind, I miss hearing your voice, a physical voice. And so I turned the little mini player on, and at first it was making all this noise, and I was ready to turn it off. I thought, oh, okay, there's nothing on this. And right when I had that thought, all of a sudden, boom, he was talking in it, and I was on it too. He recorded me and him, and he was talking about how to operate it. He said, I'm not sure how to work this thing. I'm going to have to learn how to work it. And I replied, I said, well, there's a little video that goes with it on Amazon, because I bought it on Amazon. I said, there's like several videos that show you how to work it. And it was this conversation that got all recorded, and he was talking on it. And the last thing he said on it was, hello, hello, hello. In his voice, like test, test, test. And I said, oh, Richard, I'm so glad I have your voice. I have your voice now that I can listen to for the rest of my life. And on that little recorder. And it's easy to charge up. You just, plug it in through the USB. And I did it several times and listened to it several times. And I know, see, that's what I mean. I know he brought me to that little recorder because for some reason I walked over where his little table is in the living room, and I saw it, and I got this message like, go ahead, turn it on. And I know it was him. I know he was telling me, go ahead, turn it on. You want to hear my voice? Go ahead, turn it on. It's on there. And those are the little things that I mean that I don't want to stop. If there's any way that he can continue to talk to me that way, I need to have that. you know, because if I don't have that, I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional again. If I don't have that, I need to know he's with me. And sometimes having these little signs and messages mean so much to me. I want you to know that, Richard, if you can hear this. It means so much to me. Okay, here I go. Getting a little bit, you know, into my heartbreak. But I just wanted to talk to you guys. And there's Schmickles, he wanted to talk too. There you go, Schmicks, you're in the video. He always likes to be in the video. Okay, everyone, have a good day. Bye-bye.